realised I look like Fred Didner. Oh, sorry, I'm right. Well, good afternoon. This is Ian R. Crane, and it's the afternoon of Tuesday, the 12th of March 2019. And as you can see, it's not as green as my usual surroundings, but I'm here outside the Royal Courts of Justice in London, and of course I'm here with Thyre, and I'm pleased to say that Thyre is still at liberty. Just about. Although it's not for lack of trying by the Crown Prosecution Service representing France, of course, who are trying to extradite Lynn to France to face charges in France. And despite the fact that David, as everyone watching this will be aware, faced charges of producing and distributing an unlicensed medicine, for which he's currently serving time in Wandsworth Jail. But the British Crown Prosecution Service could not find any justifiable reason to bring charges against Lynn. But the French equivalent of the MHRA decided that they would attempt to extradite Lynn. So Lynn has been effectively on bail for 2 years, and this hearing has been some 700 days after the European arrest warrant was issued, and this is effectively an appeal. So we'll go into a little bit of detail in just a second, but Lynn, how are you feeling right now?
I'm pleased it's over for today. We've got something to have again in 2 weeks' time because of the CPS, but today I was hoping to be outside, and all the support I've had, I just could not imagine how many people turned up today, and I just cannot say thank you enough to them. It's just amazing. They made me cry, the amount of support and love that was there. Even before I walked into the courtroom, it was just amazing.
Well, I reckon we had about 70 people here in support of Lynn today. That was more than the court could accommodate in the public gallery. But to be fair to Justice Supperstone, he made an effort to accommodate everybody, and effectively you had your supporters all around the court.
Yeah, he just didn't care where we were so long as we weren't with him. You know, he was going to take over the solicitors' bench, but we weren't allowed to do that. But the number of people and the amount of energy in that room was just so amazing. You just couldn't fault it, and I'm still, you can make me cry because I'm so grateful for the support of people.
Well, you know, and people had travelled from as far as Whitby. The lady coming from Whitby left at 2:30 in the morning to get here. We had somebody from Rotherham, from Clacton-on-Sea, and from where else? Norfolk, North London,
Ely,
Carlisle,
Ely.
Yeah, and a few people from south of the river as well. But it was a fantastic turnout, and the spirit of the support was not lost on the judge, or certainly on the CPS. Now, let's talk a little bit about what happened today. Now, at one point today, and forgive me for saying this, but at one point early in the day, Lynn, you were so frustrated by the way proceedings were unfolding, you were on the cusp of wanting to fire your barrister.
That was true, because at home, I didn't bring it today, I've got a document of 600 pages, and most of that document is detailing grizzled lizards in France. And I was getting fed up with how many people I'm going to share my cell with, where I'm going to the toilet, what the conditions are. You know, just getting repetitive and boring. It was just so soul-destroying.
Hang on a second. You always get somebody trying to call us in the middle of a live stream. Sorry, we're back live again. If somebody tries to call, unfortunately the camera may drop out again, but I'll get rid of the call and we'll be back. Sorry, say.
No, it's just basically, I've been on top of my case now, so I know everything that's going on. I know all about the position of and also as well, my barrister was the only one that was right about the number of people in the plane present, where I could go to the toilet, where I could shower, and how many girls I'll be sharing my cell with. You know,
How many rats as well?
and the rats, yeah, the rats don't even speak English. I was a bit worried about that one. I don't know how to say bonjour in rats, you know. But this, I was going to fire him at one point because it was just getting tedious. We needed to move on to get on with the actual proceedings, the
But Lynn's frustration was quite understandable, but you know, a little bit of counsel. We said just give him time, and certainly by mid-morning he was finding his momentum, and you know, basically to cut to the quick, the Crown Prosecution Service were struggling to actually come up with the substance, and this wasn't lost on the judge. And basically it was effectively an arrest warrant for David Notes, and what they had tried to do was simply cut and paste from the arrest warrant for David and then try and apply it to Lynn. And as Lynn's barrister was very able in pointing out that actually there's no substance to this, there's no real evidence of Lynn having committed any crime, and it basically became very clear that this was a French fishing expedition. And of course, you know, the French judiciary are simply acting on behalf of Big Pharma, and on the basis that you know, the British authorities couldn't find any substance against Lynn, so they basically told the French that, you know, okay, well, you get Lynn Thyre over to France, and then we can deal with her in France.
It was actually beautiful because two things. When I had my European arrest warrant issued, it had exactly the same case number and reference number as David. All of the change was my name. When they arrested me at my house, they are supposed to, when they issue an arrest warrant, to do it in your native language. I was given a European arrest warrant at Canterbury Police Station. There you go, gorgeous.
In French.
This is what you're in charge with. And I was going, it's in French. And they go, yeah. I said, it's supposed to be my native language. But fortunately, I had a few hours with some cute policemen on the way to Westminster for the bail conditions where I could actually read it. You know? So me and David, same but different, I don't know.
Well, your barrister was doing a really good job, eventually, of getting to the substance, and the substance was that there was no substance in the arrest warrant, basically. And you know, at this point, the CPS barrister, Mr. Seaman, no, it wasn't Seaman.
No, it wasn't.
It might as well have been. That's a Freudian slip, sorry. It was Seaford, wasn't it? Seaford. Mr. Seaford.
It's not spelled Seaford, though, is it? It's Seaford.
Is it Seaford? Okay. Well, he realised that actually he had been found wanting, and so he got desperate, and he literally started making stuff up as he went along, which of course was not lost on the judge. And you know, the judge basically, you know, I think strung him along actually, and then he got desperate. And I have to say that in all the time that I've spent in courtrooms over the past few years, I saw the lowest shot ever from a desperate barrister, because part of Lynn's case is that Lynn is a carer for her elderly parents, and the documentation was produced from the Kent Health Authority to prove that that was the case. And Mr. Seaford, yes, whatever his name is, basically then stood up and said, well, she's not really the primary carer because her father's the primary carer for his mother. The only concern here is if her father actually suffers and has to go into hospital, then of course she would become the carer. But you know, this is really not something that's relevant, and this was the cheapest shot that I have seen presented in a courtroom. And for me, this was the final act of desperation by a barrister that knew that there was no real substance. And where we're at right now is that a part of his desperation was that he said, well, yes, of course there's no actual charges here, but if there were charges, then I can actually produce what those charges would be within 24 hours. And the judge was about to hold him to that, but then the judge sort of said, well, I'll give you a little bit more time, at which point somebody in the public gallery said, well, actually you said 24 hours. And the judge at that point did sort of request that
was me.
That the audience participation be perhaps a little restrained. But nonetheless, he gave the barrister effectively 7 days to produce the charges as they would or might appear if this arrest warrant had been issued in England. And then he gave Lynn's barrister people just don't get the message, do they? They don't get the message that we're on a live stream. Oh, I think we may have lost. No, hang on a second.
Carry on, I'll send you this feed.
Okay, no, I think we're back. Okay, so sorry about that. So then, of course, Lynn's barrister has the opportunity to rebut. So that puts another 3 days on it. So anyway, where we're at, the judge had already said that he wasn't going to make a ruling today because it's a very complex case and he wanted to consider all of the evidence. But basically, there was no real evidence. But the judge has said that you know, he's going to take some time, and obviously, you know, he's got to be sure that he's got the appropriate arguments to respond to the French government, the French legal system, if he should decide to dismiss this application. So there is going to be a further 1 hour hearing.
1 hour, you reckon?
Just 1 hour, I might run to 2, but basically it's going to be listed for 1 hour, and it's simply going to be an opportunity for the two barristers to submit their final oral arguments based on this latest submission that the CPS have been given the opportunity to do.
But from my point of view, I just cannot understand why, when there are charges there, why he suddenly wanted to convert it into English. And he was asked that he would be charged for it. Why?
Well, it's desperation. It's just desperation.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, he knew he was on the back foot, and he was just literally trying to buy time. So we need to have an absolutely packed public gallery in the 2 weeks. Now, we don't know the exact date yet. It's going to be somewhere probably around about the 27th or 28th of the month. And obviously it's a long way for people to come if they're travelling from the north of England for a 1 hour hearing. So this is where we really need people in the London area to step up to the plate to provide that support for Lynn. I'm going to do everything I possibly can to be here for that hearing. You know, when we know what the date is, obviously I will share it widely.
Don't forget that they also mentioned David on
Right.
the 28th.
So David, there's also a prospective directions hearing for
Lynn, come on, come here. It's a follow-up to the court appearance earlier, here with Ian R. Crane and all our follows, our people that helped out. Ian's got to go now, so thank you very much, Ian. There you go. Oh, we will. And how'd you feel? Feel good? Almost a full result, weren't it? Almost. 8 out of 9. But so we've got another little hurdle to cross. Little hurdle, but we'll get there. Say again?
He was only tiny anyway.
It doesn't matter about the stature. It's about where we've got. Anyway, all right. So I'm going. Hey Lynn, I know you're half pissed now, but we're in a pub across the road from there. Royal Course of Justice, and we've had a decent day. We're having a beer, we're enjoying ourselves, we've got all these people. Say hello. Alright, I'm going to close out. Don't want to bore anybody. Bye.